The appetite for plant-based meat substitutes has emerged as more than just a fad, with consumer preferences now demanding specific brands and ingredients. A new report by agribusiness banking specialist Rabo Research, reveals the growth of plant-based meat substitutes as creating an opportunity for grains, oilseeds and pulse producers here in New Zealand. Now, Rabo Research says that as consumer preferences start demanding these certain brands over others, and with them certain ingredients over others, producers of plant-based meat substitutes will increasingly turn their attention towards ingredients sourced to strike the right balance between quality and price. Susan Goodfellow is a founding director of Leftfield Innovation and joins us now to further unpack this piece of research. Welcome to the show, Susan. It's great to have you on.
Thank you, Sarah. It's great to be here again.
Now, the reason I reached out to you is I'm familiar with the work that you're doing, and I wanted to provide some reality around this. The opportunity lies in field peas is the headline to Annette Scott's article. Is there, first and foremost, an understanding of the opportunity here for New Zealand growers?
Okay, I think no. To be really blunt, I think that, if you've only got to compare what we produce in New Zealand in terms of field peas, the tonnage, which, is quite small, it's around 30,000 tonnes, and most of that's dry peas for seed, and then there's a very small amount for food and feed, animal food. And I think that, and if you compare it to North America, and that's 750,000 tonnes of peas in terms of the capacity for processing those peas into plant-based ingredients, so it's fractionating them. You go, well, how can we play in that space effectively? And ultimately, if we produce the raw material, it's a commodity that will compete with that large-scale supply of commodities. So I think it's really important to understand the context first, understand that there's billions of dollars investment in plant-based of meat alternative startup companies around the world, and very little investment, if any, in New Zealand. So from that starting point, where do we go?
And I do want to talk about it where the consumer preferences will start to demand certain ingredients over others. To date, plant-based meat substitutes are really a commodity. Do you believe that the demand will get to a point where they'll demand more sort of transparency on the ingredient within these?
Yeah, and I think that's the opportunity for New Zealand. It's not just, we can grow all of those plant materials, the grains, the pulses, the oils. We can grow many of those here, and we grow them exceptionally well. What we're missing is the ability to transform those raw materials into the food products. So if we can solve that problem with strategic investment and certain processing capability, we need to know what it is. So it's got to be market-led, and how can we create food products with a point of difference? That comes down to the attributes of those raw materials, looking at health attributes, looking at taste and functional attributes, and looking at how we combine the various raw materials to create unique food offerings that consumers care about, and then layering on our provenance with authenticated data to prove where it's come from, how it's grown, the environmental footprint of that product. So wrapping all of that together is a real opportunity for New Zealand. But the first instance is saying, well, where in the market in terms of niche can we play, because we are a small player, and understanding what the consumers want, then coming back here and then breaking that down into identifying what we can create here. But it's a massive piece of work with significant investment from the market right through to the grower, including in new varieties as well, to see how can we actually create a point of difference.
Do we need to produce added value plant-based proteins here so we absolutely capture the value? Or how is there a way that it may be emerging, I'm thinking with the blockchain technologies in different ways, that we can actually safeguard the ingredient story all the way through? Because, I know I take a look and soy is soy to me, or almond's almond to me, and if I think, soy, bad, because I've heard something, I'll stay away. If it's New Zealand-based pea protein versus protein produced in a different farming system in a different part of the world, we could be tarnished from that reputation or damage?
Yeah, look, I think producing an ingredient is requiring us to transform that raw material. So a lot of people think, well, we can grow peas, so that's the ingredient, but it's not. It's the raw material that we need to then create an ingredient. So plant protein is made up of the protein from the pea, so it's separated out. And that's where I was saying before, we don't have that technology here to fractionate or break apart that protein from the pea in New Zealand at scale. So if we are able to invest and create that infrastructure, then there is potential to supply those ingredients. So I think the challenge is going to be, how do you differentiate a commodity ingredient that's actually low value? Because a lot of these plant-based foods are targeting the low value end of the market. So we really need to go, how do we lift that into a category of consumers that are willing to pay a premium for something superior rather than a mass-produced, alternate protein meat bun type thing, meat patty type thing. So I think that there are opportunities, but it's about creating and capturing that value here in New Zealand. There is a risk if it's a commodity ingredient, it disappears in that value chain and we don't capture the value here.
As farmers and growers who have traditionally been paid on a weight-based selling system and haven't been able to capture the value of these types of initiatives, going into this particular part, is there what sort of work is Leftfield Innovation doing to provide those value chains sort of infrastructure around those who really want to participate in this?
Yeah, so there's a number of things we're doing, and I think that around capturing more value, one key aspect is we've really got to look at different business models that farmers are participating in beyond the farm gate. So they're not just within the farm gate, supplying that commodity and then no more connection. There's got to be a closer link with the farmers to the consumer, and they've got to move up the value chain. And how do we do that? So we're doing some interesting work on various value share business models to ensure that farmers have the opportunity to participate beyond the farm gate, but that also requires some investment by the farmers. So obviously there's a risk reward consideration there. Other work that we're doing is we realise that this whole transformational piece is a long game. It's not something that can be done in a short term. So we've developed a 10-year program that covers land use diversification, and obviously grains and pulses are a big part of that. It covers provenance traceability and new food concepts, and being market-led in all of those three categories. So it's a significant investment, and we're still in the process of engaging and working through with central government, local government, food companies and farmers. And the farmers that we've currently been working with around some grains are interested in participating and co-funding this work as well. So they realise this is a long game. It includes bringing in new seed varieties from other parts of the world and trialling them. And it could be 4 years until we get that particular variety to a commercial stage and be able to produce volume. So it's about playing the long game. There's no quick wins here.
No, absolutely not. But what is one that you can share with us that you are excited about that's sort of starting to unfold, if there is any?
Look, I think that you mentioned soy, and it's quite interesting because in some market insight work we did about a year ago around what are those near-term opportunities for value. So what is it that we know we can grow that we could get underway reasonably quickly and get it into food companies? So it's the raw material with provenance that could be transformed to some extent into food products with the current processing capability we have in New Zealand. And one of the things that people are screaming out for is GE-free soy. And because it's very difficult to buy food-grade GE-free soy in New Zealand. So we're now working with a plant breeder and have trials underway to identify soy that is fit for purpose here. So it has the cook times, it's the size, it's the colour, the mouthfeel. And you kind of think, well, that's an interesting thing that you have to consider, but they're the things that make it fit for purpose for the market. So that's again going to be a wee while away, but it's something that we've got food companies saying, we'll take everything that you can supply. Another really interesting opportunity in the last 12 months has been buckwheat into Japan. We have a very exacting client, a client with exacting specifications that had visited New Zealand 4 times to make sure that they'd met the farmers. They saw, the areas it was going to be grown in, and they monitored the quality all the way through the cycle, and have since made these high-value buckwheat noodles for customers in Japan and sold out very, very quickly. And so it's about understanding the market, and it was really working with that customer. We realised the way the buckwheat had been grown in New Zealand, we weren't doing it right, and it wasn't the right moisture content. It wasn't harvested at the right time to meet the customer's specifications. So that engagement allowed a reasonable opportunity to come to some farmers in mid-Canterbury, and that's doubled this year. So it's just working at the coalface, getting in front of the customer, understanding what they want, working with farmers who can tweak what they're doing on farm to make it work. And it's amazing what you can achieve through that engagement, which often farmers are disconnected and they don't get the feedback from the market. And so they're growing it thinking they're doing the right thing, and actually it's not fit for purpose. So joining this up is really creating some really near-term opportunity for value, which is the initial space that we need to operate in to get some runs on the board.
I was actually having a conversation with a gentleman from Farmlands at AgFest around this exact topic, that farmer mental health would improve if we could give them instant feedback from market. Yeah. And I strongly believe in that, and there's some cool work going on in that space and tech as well. Susan, thank you so much, and it's such great work what yourself and Nick and Pike and the team are doing at Leftfield Innovation, but you're not going to get away without sharing with us your favourite fruit-based dessert.
Well, look, mine's been stolen a couple of times now, so it's the problem when you come on late in the show, isn't it? That fruit crumble. But look, I'd have to say probably a trifle would, with lots of fruit in it, would come up, as a nice Christmas treat on near the top of my list.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Susan Goodfellow there from Leftfield Innovation.
This is Sarah's Country.